desde Las Vegas, Nevada. Iniciamos con el programa Hablando de bienes y raíces con Castillo y sus invitados. Comenzamos.
Muy buenos días, Las Vegas, ¿cómo están? Yo soy Castillo, estamos aquí comenzando su programa de Hablando de Bienes Raíces. Estamos aquí en el estudio de ML Mortgage, dando la información que siempre estamos trayendo. Hoy día, diciembre 1, increíble. Y aquí en el estudio tenemos a dos personas invitadas especiales. Can't believe today is December the 2nd. It's incredible how quickly the time is flying. So we have here in our studio two guests. I'm going to go ahead and start with the ladies. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Nicole. Nicole, if you want to go ahead and give me your name, your last name, company you work with, and your phone number, please. I would really appreciate that. Go ahead, Nicole.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Nicole Renteria with Loan Depot. My phone number is 760-458-4338.
Perfect. And also we have in studio Richard. Richard, good morning. How are you? Same information, please.
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Richard Pobre. I'm with eXp Realty. My number 702-619-8236. You want to find me on Instagram, it's Richard Realtor.
Perfect. And it's really interesting that, we're talking about that because 5-7 years ago, nobody cared about Instagram handling, right? Nobody cared about social media as much as we do now. And Richard and I were talking about this right before we started on the air, and we're talking about how important social media has definitely become, not so much for us, but is to go ahead and capture the new generation. So, Richard, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what your point of view on that is, because I think it's a really valid, good point of view, would you please mind sharing your information?
Yeah. I think that we're shifting from an old guard to a new guard, with social media really kicking into gear, especially over COVID. I think that we saw a lot of even just influencers get birthed during COVID. Mm-hmm. And as we already know, we've known this in the past, but I think it's even more relevant now, even with the last election, that attention is currency right now, right? Mm-hmm. You've seen that both candidates, they both really went into using social media influencers to drive home why they should be president. So I think the same thing as entrepreneurs, we should be seeing how can we get more eyeballs on the product that we're trying, or the consumers that we're looking to serve, mm-hmm. right? So I think that the best channels now, it used to be radio, and then it was TV, and then it was billboards. Mm-hmm. But now I think it is social media because everybody has it on their hand. Mm-hmm. Right? You see more people on TikTok than on PBS or NBC or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm really leaning into the attention is currency through social media channel now.
Mm-hmm. And that's really important because, again, us loan professionals, mortgage professionals, title professionals, we are old school type of thinking, right? It's a personality thing, right? We have to meet the consumer. We have to go ahead and make sure that we have a one-on-one with them so they understand. But how do you get that person to meet with you? And that is the key thing. Nicole, you did actually a really cool video just a few days ago on your social media, which I thought it was really important to make that, consumer realize that, the real estate dream is not impossible. Mm-hmm. It might be a little bit harder, but it's not impossible.
Right.
Can you go ahead and share the idea behind that video, please?
Right. So one of the things that we're always trying to relate mm-hmm. with our consumers mm-hmm. is that other people are already doing it. There's a blueprint. Mm-hmm. And the getting rich and wealthy off of real estate is not a new concept. And actually, anybody can take advantage of it. So mm-hmm. we created a video of how rich people continue to get richer. Mm-hmm. And one of the tools, among many, is investing in real estate. It's mm-hmm. one of the longest, most stable ways to grow your portfolio and grow your wealth. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to really highlight that it's not just out there for the rich, but you can start off as a first-time home buyer and start to build that generational wealth.
Correct.
And utilize that to actually give you more paths and streamways to other income opportunities.
No, definitely. And, as you said, right, real estate has been one of the oldest ways to go ahead and get wealthy. I mean, I'm watching right now, and I know I'm aging myself and, throwing this out there, but I'm watching a show right now that's called 1882, and it talks about, how people came from the East Coast to come and conquer the West Coast. And the very first thing that they were doing was, this is my piece of land. And that was literally what really it's all about, right? Can you own a piece of land? Can you make that start happening because everybody that has become a millionaire or a billionaire in real estate, they started with one property. They didn't start with 10 unless you had, all kinds of money coming to you. But usually they start with one piece of property. And that's kind of like the idea or the message that you were saying is like, just start, right? It doesn't matter if it's, a $300,000 home in the East Side. The bottom is you gotta get your foot in the door in the real estate market. And you as a lender, you have that type of conversations all the time because you have to assess that buyer to make the best decision with their money, right?
Right. So as a lender, I try to take the concept and the approach of if I'm just a transactional lender, I'm just worried about the one deal in front of me. But to become a part of the financial path, you have to kind of access and create a game plan. It's not just one transaction. It's how do we use this one transaction to create your financial power in the future.
Right.
So it goes a little bit deeper than just buying your first property or closing your first loan. It's how do we utilize this to take the next step?
Right.
What is your next step?
Right. And that's one of the things that as a real estate agent, Richard, you have to continue to address the consumer saying, don't just think that this is your forever home, right? Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, you never end up buying your forever home. You end up getting to that, home in the golf course with 7 bedrooms and everything. And then your kids leave and you're like, oh, now I got to downsize. You're always going to be cycling different properties. The mindset of, can I make money off of this real estate is what needs to shift. Isn't that true?
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's absolutely true with acquiring real estate, right? Here in Las Vegas, I mean, our median price point is right in the in the mid 400s, depending who you ask, right? It's like 460, 465. So if you think about it, right, just logically, if you want to just control $1 million in real estate, I mean, you're talking 2 properties, right?
Yeah, at least.
With a few years, appreciation. We're talking 4 to 7% appreciation year over year. With 2 of them, you control $1 million of asset, right? And that's with putting the minimum down. Imagine if you only put 3.5% down on that, right? That's not much money. You're talking on $500K if you put 3.5, which you can't because FHA limits, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just using simple math. I mean, you're talking $17,500, right?
Right.
To control $1 million of real estate, you just do 17,500 times 2. I mean, you're controlling $1 million in real estate in the future, right? And you get to collect all the equity appreciation. You get to control all of it. And if you start parlaying that and start acquiring more and more, I mean, by the time that your kids get to 18, 19, 20, now you're controlling $5 to $10 million worth of real estate. But you just got to start. I talk to my friends all the time from my previous career, right? So in between me being a Marine and being a realtor, I was in the service industry, right? So I waited tables. A lot of those people, when I was in there between 2012 to 2016, I think, 2017, top server. A lot of them didn't buy houses when I did, and I'm like, guys, we're making 80 to 100K a year, right? Just think about it. 10 years ago, where does 80 to 100K buy you? Like what type of property? Imagine if you controlled that property, held it till now.
Right.
I mean, you're double or triple in your money, right? Just because most people look at money like, oh, I'm gonna go put it in a savings account. Well, that's not. You don't want to hold your money in cash. Yeah, of course, have your reserves, but you want to hold your money in an appreciating asset, an anti-hedge, right? So really, that's why real estate is so powerful. If you look at over the last 100 years, what is it, like 3 years where it went down? 3 to 5 years when it went down. But every year, because currency, like usually dollars, whatever it is, yen or anything like that, it's always going to go down, right? So because you're going to keep printing it, so there's going to be a bigger supply of money.
Right.
But if you hold your money in asset, right, then you're going to get that appreciation. And that's what a lot of the wealthy people are doing, is that they're storing their money in assets like real estate. So that's why, I preach it. That's why I believe in real estate. That's why I'm a realtor and not a car salesperson.
Right. No, and that's really important because, again, right, there's 3 things that rich people invest their money on. Real estate, number 1. Number 2, gold and silver, right? Number 3, the stock market. But that's kind of like a quick, rich type of thing, right, Nicole? And I know that when Richard was talking about, how savings money and, putting your money in the savings account and everything, you're looking at, yeah, you're right. That's not the greatest strategy for your money. As a lender, can you explain why that is not a good strategy, even though you do need, some kind of savings to purchase, right?
Savings, right. So I think of it as this money has to keep flowing.
Okay.
If you put it in a savings account, think about what your average savings account return is. 0.0, fill in the number. It doesn't matter. Like whatever bank, it's nowhere close, right?
Hey, if you have a point and a zero, it doesn't matter.
So,
Right.
but if you think about it, but what is the cost of living raising? What is our inflation rate? You will never be able to outrun inflation.
Right.
But the fastest way to do that, like you said, is hedge it into an asset that will continue to grow. And if we're looking at real estate, even at a lower statistic, 4%, that is growing much faster than your, even a good CD account might be 1.
Right. So let's use simple numbers like Richard was saying, right? Let's say that we buy a $100,000 home, which they don't exist. Don't start calling and be like, I want the $100,000 home that JC said, right? But $100,000, right? 4% every year appreciates. That means within a year from when you purchase that home, you have $4,000 of equity. From the second year, you're not going back to adding another 4% on the 100,000. You're adding 4% on that 104, right? So you start, Richard. I know you were doing the numbers.
I think that we should use actual numbers, right? And because I have a calculator in front of me, I think we can do this easier. So guys, please, if you're gonna listen to anything, like listen to this.
Please.
If you buy the average home, let's just say 450 at 4% year-over-year appreciation. So 450. You guys can do this at home as well. 450 times 1 point.
No, 4.
4%.
Yeah, 4%.
Yeah, times 1.4. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
That's what he's a realtor, not a lender.
I'm sorry. Times 4%. There you go. So that you gain 18K for sure.
All right. So you go from 450 plus 18K.
Yep.
Second year. So now you got 450 plus, so you got 468 times 4% again.
I was right. Hold on. Sorry, guys. You guys messed me up. So it's 1.04. That's how I do it.
Oh,
There you go.
you do a military way.
1.04 because then you can compound. You push the equal sign again.
Okay.
So you're at 468 after 1 year times 1.04 again. Now you're at 486,720. That's year 2.
Right.
Okay, let's do it one more time. Year 3. Oh wait, sorry. 486. Shit, sorry guys. When I'm like in front of people, it's so much easier. When I'm on the podcast, I'm like, oh.
You're good.
1.04. So now we're at 505,000.
So
Off an original price of 450 in
Just by
3 years.
holding the real estate.
And you think about that, you take that equity that you just gained, and now you can roll it into another property. You can go buy, you can hold that, you can withdraw through a cash out refinance. You can access that equity through a HELOC, which is now going to build your second door.
right.
And that's, I think, the power of real estate. You did nothing but make your mortgage payments on time.
And I think that's a great statement that you just said. You did nothing but just to pay your rent, because we got to pay rent anywhere,
To keep a roof over your head.
right? And the bottom line is, right now everybody's saying, well, we want the interest rate to lower. We know it's not going to get lowered. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm looking at all the statistics that are coming out, and I just shared a video today in the morning saying that, the feds are not going to lower the interest rate in December again, which it should not matter, because what you don't want is your price of the homes to go any higher. Because if your house goes any higher, another $15,000, $20,000, then you are definitely putting yourself out of the real estate market, because that's hard cash, right? An interest rate, you can always refinance later, right, Nicole?
You can refinance. So I think what's going to happen is, as we start to see, I'm hesitant to go the political side, and I'm not going to, but whatever side it was, that I don't think a candidate or the president is going to save this real estate market. I think you have to be prepared and be ready to purchase when you are ready to purchase.
Yes.
And I think that's the big key and takeaway, is that there is these huge expectations. Everybody wanted to wait till after the election. And after the election came, and we really didn't see any big change. The only change that was consistent was the rising prices.
Right.
So whether you had bought last year or you're going to buy next year, your monthly payment on the interest rate is going to pretty much stay the same. The only factor that's going to increase now is the fact that you lost in the actual gain in the sales price.
Correct.
So I think it's best to just, or if you don't know, you need to talk to professionals to help you decide, are you ready to purchase a house? And then utilize the future market later to reduce your payment. If you need to refinance, if you need to maybe exit that property and go into a different property. But the biggest takeaway is, don't wait for a hypothetical situation.
Correct. And I keep on saying this all the time. It's kind of like you waiting to buy a convertible car for the perfect day of the weather. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. The problem is, the car is not going to be there when you want to buy it, right? And right now with real estate, Richard, I know that you're looking at this right now because you're dealing with a lot of buyers where they're like, they want that, real pretty home. They want that cheap, price. And we're not seeing cheap prices. We're seeing a lot of price reductions, which I truly believe, and I apologize if I offend any real estate agent, but it's your own damn fault for not telling the seller this is what the reality of the market is and going for that $20,000-$30,000 above this price because you just want that listing. But the market is really saying, no, we're not paying any more than this. And you're seeing a lot of the buyers right now saying, I want a cheap home, right? I want a cheap home. But the prices are not really adjusting like they should be adjusting because of the same factor that the sellers are not understanding that the market is not what it used to be. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So, my take on this, man, is what would you say is cheap, right? If you walked into the store and, I don't know, you saw a bag of chips and it was $5, but you can get it for $2.50, is that cheap?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about for $4? Is it still cheap?
Yeah.
Because what's the average? It's $5, right?
Right.
So our average or median price point right now is $4.60 in Vegas. Okay. So if you find something underneath that and it's new, is that considered cheap?
That's a good
right.
point.
It's all perspective.
Right.
So yes, what is the lens that we're looking at cheap through?
Ooh.
Are we looking at cheap through 2020 or to 2024?
Okay.
And
So
that's what consumers are not getting.
so they're comparing.
Yeah.
They're not looking at the reality because they're comparing. And I've said this many of times in this show that there has been I've been doing this since 1998, right? In my career, I've only seen 3 times the real estate market really take a dip. One of them was after September 11, right? Second one was the mess that we had in 2008. And the third one was COVID. After that, there hasn't really been that big of a change in pricing or interest rate. The problem is that people got used to seeing cheap homes. I mean, during 2008, I was selling short sales for $30,000. I mean, I don't know if you guys been in the industry that long, but you remember those days, right? $30,000, $40,000, $60,000. $100,000 home was like something in Summerlin that when whoever purchased that, right now they're laughing all the way to the bank. Right? But it's all opportunity. When is the best opportunity for you to jump in? And you're right. Price is just a number, but can we go ahead and be very strategic on how we're going to achieve that purchase? Because we know for a fact that property is not going to go down in value unless something major happens that forces the prices to come down. Isn't that true?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at it, is like what would make the houses come up, right? And our biggest challenge right now since 08, and I'm sure you guys have heard it somewhere else, but from 08 till now, we have a lack of inventory. Yep. The only way for prices to come down in anything, any consumable, any asset, is that we need to have an influx of them. We have to have way too many, right? And do we have too many? No, because builders stopped building after the 08 crisis. I mean, you can see it even like in the Northeast, there's developments that never got finished.
Yep.
Now some of them are getting finished, but we lack inventory. And even just the cool thing about real estate is that, there is a national real estate market, but a lot of it's micro. It's really city centered. So something I like to look at is California.
Right.
So I mean, well, let's say Vegas, right? So in Vegas, like, where are the consumers coming from? California. I get Hawaii reaching out to me every single day without fail. The Northwest, the Northeast. Okay. So in California, just think of this as a stat. So in Vegas, we probably close anywhere from 3 to 5K homes, depending on the month.
Right.
Now, let's just take the California traffic into Vegas.
Correct.
So California, there's 50 million people. If we take, let's say that 0.1 move, 0.1%, that's 500K move every year. So 20% of that is probably going to come to Vegas.
Right.
So if we brought in 100K people, where are they going to live?
Right. And
Right.
And I think that's a great
Where
point. And I think that's a great point because people in California, they're not paying rent because their rent is $4,000 a month. So they rather purchase. They have the mental capacity and the idea of, if I'm going to move somewhere new, I am going to purchase because I know what that's going to create. You, Nicole, as a lender, understanding that there's so many people coming in, what kind of conversations are you having with those people that are used to paying, way more than what our local prices are? And they're thinking, you know what? for that price, I'm going to buy two, right? I'd rather buy two because they're coming in with cash. They sold their property. You see that they're coming with a little bit more. They're more prepared. I guess that's the better word. They're more prepared to purchase because they got money down. They have good credit. They just sold the property. That looks good in paper, doesn't it?
It does. But and we got to keep it in perspective too, right? So everything's easier with money. Let's just be honest. Everything's easier with money. You can come in, you can be a cash buyer, you have a larger down payment, you can buy down your rate, you can play with it. So the conversations that we're having with the transplants is one, they are very, I don't want to say sticker shock in a bad way. Like they are sticker shocked in the fact that like I can buy so much more than what I can. And I'm licensed in both states. So I do loans in California. I do loans here in Vegas. So the conversations that I have
I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah.
So they are very different. They are very different. When we're talking about utilizing the California market that is coming here, we got to keep in perspective, they are going to drive up our prices.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people don't like Californians coming because they tend to, I don't know, you can confirm this or not. Do they create these bidding wars? Because they have cash.
I mean, they
and
do,
they're willing to throw it. I don't know. Are they like? I'm curious
because
about that.
they're coming in more liquid, right? With more cash.
Right.
So that's the liquid bit. They're coming in with more cash, so of course they're going to drive up prices. How long is that going to happen? I mean, I don't see a spot where we flat. I don't know if we're going to flatten out because we have so many people migrating from California to here. So that's a big thing, right?
Now I think that's a great point, and I got to play devil's advocate, right? Because I have to. At what point does the real estate agent tell that consumer from California, hey, dummy, don't overpay for property? Because then at that point, we create the factor that we're having now, where we have a lot of people that moved in during COVID. They drove the price $60,000, $80,000 because that's the house that they wanted. It was cheap for them. And now they're looking at it and saying, holy crap, the value really is not there compared to what I paid for it. At what point does the real estate agent come in and say, hey, time out, whoa, you know what? Me as a professional, I'm not going to allow you to overpay for a property because not only is not good for you, but it's not good for our local economy as well. Is that a conversation that at one point we might have to have with those California buyers?
Maybe possibly, but honestly, I would say a lot of the people that I'm working with, they're somewhat savvy, right? Everybody has access to the internet, so they're looking at Zillow and Redfin. They're looking at all these places to really compare. So a lot of are coming in with decent expectations, to be honest. Most of the clients that I'm working with, they are looking at new homes, right?
Right.
And I specialize underneath the median price. So most of the homes I'm selling are underneath that median price.
Okay.
So they already know. If median price is $460 and I can get you a new home, 4 bedrooms for $412, $420,
right?
Oh, done deal all day.
Right.
Are they overpaying at that point? No.
Okay.
Right? I don't think people right now are going into the 20, 30K because of the interests are I don't say they're high, but they're pretty standard.
Okay.
They're where they should be now.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing the market kind of cool down and relax. But I don't think people are overpaying today because I think we're already adjusting, to be honest.
Okay. And I think, well, you know what, now that you brought up that interest rate, being at the way that it is, because to me, anything under 9%, it's a good interest rate, right? I mean, let's compare. Back in the day, the prices of the homes, when the interest rate were 9%, they were $150,000. Now we're talking maybe 2-3 times more expensive. But I think that having that higher interest rate, like Richard said, is kind of like putting a cap on the amount of home that you could buy. You're putting a cap on the amount of money you're spending to purchase a home. Now, unfortunately, yes, we have a lot of local people that cannot have that money to put down. They don't have that extra money to buy, or to put extra on that property. Even if it's $10,000, $15,000, it doesn't happen.
So let me stop right there.
Okay.
A lot of the locals, when I speak to them, right, I'm not the lender. However, is it their spending habits or is it their income?
Oh, of course, always is the spending habits.
So that I think that we got to change that narrative from, oh, they can't afford it because Californians, to let's empower our consumers and clients to, hey guys, like let's be smarter with our money. Let's actually save, and let's make sure we're using our money towards assets, right, and the future. So I think that's the conversation that needs to have, that we don't have enough. We have, oh my God, it's California's fault, because as soon as, and I tell this to my agents all the time, or the other people I coach, is as soon as I release responsibility of an incident, I lose responsibility to grow. So we have to empower our consumers and clients to, hey, what's the roadmap? Because maybe Californians are moving in today, but what are you going to do to make sure that you are able to get in? Because it doesn't matter how many people move here. It matters what are you going to do so that you make it happen, right?
That's a good,
So that's what I was saying.
That's a great point, because I know for a fact, and Nicole, maybe you could agree with me, I know people that make $17, $18 an hour, and they could afford a $500,000 home. And I know people that are professional, they could make $150,000 a year, and they can't afford a $5,000 payment. And it's that, like you said, it's not so much about how much you make, it's about how much you spend. And unfortunately, I know you as a lender have to have that conversation with a lot of buyers and saying, at the moment, you are not ready because you're spending way more than what your month is at the end of the month, right?
It does go back to changing the narrative and the spending habits. I'll tell you the number one killer for buyers right now on being able to buy a home that had income. Thank you. It's the car payment. You know, I mean, I don't know when all of a sudden it became perfectly acceptable to have an $800-900 car payment, but it is. And I will tell you that is the number. It's not student loans. It's not collection accounts. It's not, I mean, sometimes credit card, but it's a car. It's a car that is causing buyers to not be able to purchase.
And it's crazy because I don't understand it. I mean, I drive around all day long. And if you don't believe me, you could ask to my service guy at Mercedes-Benz, because he's like, holy crap, you drive. I'm like, well, that's what a car's for. If you're going to use a car to actually use it for business, to drive, then I don't have a problem you making that kind of payment. But if you're paying $800 to have it parked 8 hours a day, making $17 an hour, that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense. And you're right. It has shifted because not only we have high car payments, but now everybody and their mother in the family has a cell phone, and that cell phone is not being paid. Is not being paid up front. It's paid monthly, right? So all of those little charges add up at the end of the month, right, Nicole?
They do. I mean, we're not taking the cell phone into consideration in the qualifying for your debt to income, but as a responsible lender, you are looking at the bank statements and you are like, that's a lot of Dutch Bros.
Yes, it is a lot of Dutch Bros.
That's a lot of eating out. You know, you start to see more and more like this where the spending habits go. And all of a sudden, I don't have any money for a down payment. Yes, you would.
Yes.
Yes, you would if you cut this out.
No, but it's California's.
I know. California coming in and putting that.
Yeah.
So hold on real quick before we forget. Okay, so what is an acceptable DTI in your car payment? Like if somebody, let's just say $10,000, what's the max their car payment should be?
A $10,000 car loan?
No. Like if somebody makes $10K a month, what's an acceptable car payment for them?
Well, let's do simple math. I love 10,000 because it's easy to divide.
Easy, yeah.
And I don't need my calculator. Okay, so 10,000. So if we were going on a conventional loan, okay, the max, and I'm not saying you should do this, but the max you should be spending on a monthly basis is 50% of your income, including your mortgage payment. So that means $5,000 is the most that you can spend on consumer debt.
What is consumer debt?
Consumer debt would be for the consumers. Yeah. Consumer debt is your cars, your credit cards, your student loans, your personal loans, your I think I might have covered it all.
Yeah. So I mean, you have your house, right? You have your house, your car, student loan. Okay, so house. Let's say house is gonna take up
maybe $3,000 on
so
a 450, right?
Let's say house takes up 30%.
Okay. So and then you have maybe you have some student loans that you're paying on. That's $200 a month. Okay. Then you have a $300 credit cards payments that you're paying. So now we're at $3,500.
Yeah, we're at 35% now. So we have 15% left to use.
15% or $1,500.
Okay.
Yep. And then you and your wife both drive a $750 car. You have just completely maxed out, and we're not even taking into consideration that's your gross income.
Right.
Now let's peel it back and look at the reality. You have taxes, you have 401ks, you have medical coming out. So you're leaving yourself less than 50% of your income to survive on a monthly basis.
Right. And I know this for a fact because we had Catalina here from the insurance company here saying that the renewal for homeowners insurance, it's increasing 15 to 20% every year.
Crazy.
The renewal for your car insurance is increasing. And those are expenses that we have no control over. So if you're living at the limit of your budget, and I think that's the word that people need to realize as a consumer, you must have a budget and you must stick to it. So, I know people that spend 25 minutes, and don't take any offense to anybody, that spend 25 minutes in Starbucks to pay for a $750 coffee, where, you know what, you could have the same probably coffee. Because to me, coffee's coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, but coffee's coffee, right? Yeah. If you start adding all the $750 every day that you're spending in a coffee, it does add up at the end of the year. Doesn't it, Richard?
I'm going to oppose you. Just because I want to have conflict. I don't want peace. I want problems.
Oh, that's cool.
No. Okay. So I think we go back to this, right? I don't think that coffee's going to make the big difference. I think that your personal skills, and I think that's going to be the difference, is if coffee is going to be the biggest impact in your life, you're probably not working on yourself enough, right? Because if average income goes up every year, inflation happens every year, why are you not getting better every year to increase your salary?
Correct.
Or your income, right? So, coffee goes up, 5% maybe every year.
Right.
So imagine if you increased your income 5% every year, right? Let's say you start at 100K. Doing the same math, right? Now you're at 105, now you're at 112, now you're, right? So you're going up every year.
Right.
So why is your income not going up? It's because you stopped working yourself. So I think I'm a big proponent of self-improvement. So you have to be working on yourself, your business, everything, every single year, because your business is going to be a reflection of who you are.
Right.
Right. If you're not working on yourself, why would somebody pay you more? Because you're not worth more. But the more skills, the more books you read, the more mentors, the more masterminds you're a part of, the more you get to grow. But as soon as you decide, I'm done growing, well, why should the money keep flowing?
No, and I totally get that.
But okay, so devil's advocate.
You open up a can.
So that is great advice, and I'm a huge proponent of that as well. But you're talking now to a very specific audience, and you're talking to an audience who has the ability to grow. Now let's reverse it and talk to the audience who is now retired and on fixed income.
Right.
Now, how do you propose that same situation? Because you still have to be able to help them.
100%. So, if you're retired, right, you've already done this. You should have already set yourself up for this situation where you have assets that are growing year over year, right? Hypothetically, you should have multiple
streams of income.
Multiple streams of income. And if you own, let's say 5 houses, we're not going to go crazy and say you're Thach Nugent or, Thatch, right? Where he owns $100 million. Actually, I was in a class the other day with him on last Tuesday. It was very cool. He owns $100 million in real estate, right? I don't need you to be that person, but your average everyday person can get to 5 homes, right?
Right.
You're going to work, let's say average person going to work 40 to 50 years. Can you buy a house every 10 years?
Yeah, you should be.
Can you buy a house, right? Yes, of course
you
can.
You should be.
Every single person I've ever met can buy a house every 10 years.
Right.
Right.
And I understand. And now I'm gonna throw a curveball on this one, right? Because we started talking about
But what it sounds like from what Richard just said is that, like, I'm sorry guys, if you didn't start back then.
No. But even if you're starting at 40 or 50, you can get there.
You can.
You've acquired real life skills, and you can invest, right? So. But the point is the audience, right? Audience, I'm guessing from 20 to 50. Let's just say 20 to 50 is your audience, right? I think that all of them have enough time still to go do something to either grow their skills in whatever field they're in or learn a new one and build upon it.
Right. So again, here I'm going to throw you a curveball, right? Let's say that 60% of the people that are listening to us right now, are consumers. They work in the casinos.
Perfect. I was in the casinos.
Okay. You got out of the casinos because you decided I'm going to do something different with my life. There's casino workers that make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Still now with all the, cutbacks and all the negotiations and everything, there's still people. I think the skill that you're talking about, Richard, is money skills, right? We're not all born with money skills, especially the Hispanic community, right? Nosotros los Hispanos, we were born that if you want to be rich, the money is the devil. It's going to make you a bad person. And, and honestly, we're stuck in that mentality of, having money is not a good thing, right? So I think that's the life skill that we need to shift with people, saying, hey, having money is not a bad thing. You just got to know what to do with it. The other thing is, and I brought up the coffee thing, because if you can't really, control yourself with a simple thing as a coffee. What's going to make you think that you're going to go ahead and start putting $5,000 a month or trying to put money away? Because it has to be a discipline. Having a monthly budget, it really is a discipline, isn't it, Nicole?
It is. So one big thing I think we have to change is the narrative around money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was necessarily like maybe like in every household and every culture has a different aspect on money. And I grew up in a household that it was very disrespectful to talk about money.
Agreed.
What your parents made, what they had saved, that was none of your business. And we then grew up not knowing how to handle money. We had no financial literacy. So I think the biggest thing that we should do now is open up those conversations, create financial literacy, because how can you learn about something or know what to do with something if you've never been taught it?
100% agree.
And I think that is a big key piece missing in our community and even in our school system. We're willing to talk about the past, but we're not willing to talk about how to make a better future.
Agree.
So, I don't know. What was your question?
My question was the discipline of the budget, right?
Yeah.
And if you are a household, Richard, you were in the military. They teach you discipline. That's the number one thing that I've never been in the military, but I know quite a bit of people in the military. That's the number one thing is that without discipline, there is nothing, because there has to be a beginning and end and a middle. Every single time when there's an order or there's something, there has to be a sequence of what we're doing. And I think the budgeting is one of the biggest things that nobody wants to talk about. I know lenders, because I have plenty of lenders sit with me and I say, well, let's talk about budgeting. And they're like, oh my God. We try to talk to our consumers and they usually get mad when we start pointing out, it's like, hey, look, you're spending money on this, you're spending money on this, you're spending money on this, where you should not be spending. And it's not your job to be telling people where to spend money, but it is your job to make them realize that there's a discipline on money. People with money are very disciplined with money. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, absolutely. So I think as a lender and even as a real estate agent, how can you be good at what you do and say that you're there for the right reasons if you're not willing to have those difficult conversations with clients? So like you, for example, right? You have a seller who wants to sell the house at $450,000, but you're like, this is $375 tops. But I don't want to lose you as a client, so therefore I'm going to let you list the house, and you're going to get frustrated.
Yeah,
How
that's
can
crazy.
they trust you to guide them if you're not willing to stand up to them and say, listen, here's the realistic? And as a lender, it's the same thing. It's not that and I think this is the biggest part, it's a very vulnerable situation as a client. You're opening up your credit, your finances, your income. We're digging through everything, and you can feel like you're being judged.
Yes.
And that's the furthest from the truth, because nobody wants to set you up to buy this house and then find out a year later you lost it or you can't maintain it because we didn't go through those steps and exercises about why it's so important to manage, because getting the house is almost the easy part. Keeping it can be just as hard if you're not disciplined.
100% agree. And just so we go back and history is there for a reason, right? We learn from our history. What happened during 2008? Everybody was getting a loan just because they had a heartbeat, right? Everybody purchased homes. And I remember being on the radio saying, wait a minute, time out. This makes no logic. You're buying a $250,000, because that's what the prices were back there, $250,000 home, and your mortgage payment is less than $700 a month, and yet your $21,000 car, your car payment is $800. There is a difference there that you're not seeing, because we couldn't legally say that's not the best product for you, right? But we're like, pay attention to what you're doing, and then a year later, when the payment shocked to $1,500, they weren't prepared. So the deal is, if you have a professional telling you right now is probably not the best time, it's not that they don't want to help you. That's the best person for you at the moment because they're telling you the truth. Isn't that true, Richard? We just talked about the seller. How do you handle that type of scenario with a seller?
So just to your point real quick. Yeah, so that's why there's guidelines, of course, right? The government put in guidelines because of what happened in 08. So that helps, right? And for sellers, I think it's important to tell them the truth, right? Like, what is it that you're looking to get for this property? Right. Okay. Well, what is that compared to what the market's telling us? Okay. So do we want to follow what the market says, or do you want to just go off of feeling, right?
Right.
Like, what's more important to you? Do you truly want to move off of this property or not, right? Positioning is important, because if we overprice this, if we overposition this home, and let's say, yeah, it's 450, you want to go 450, but the market tells us 375, and your home starts to sit. What happens when we start dropping it? What is there going to be a stigma around it? Like, what do you think consumers are going to see when they come in, right? So that's why it's important to give them, the different options. Do you want to be needle in the haystack? Do you want to be right where the market's telling us? Or do you want to go below where the market's telling us, maybe attract multiple consumers and try and start a bidding war? Like, what's going to be best for you?
Right.
Which one do you think you'll make the most money?
Right.
Right? Because it's not my decision. It's your decision at the end of the day. You're the seller. I just represent you, right, in your best interest. But I'm going to tell you the truth.
Right. And I think that's important, right? Having those conversations, the truthful conversations, the transparent conversations with both parties. The buyers, their expectations, because again, you qualify for 375, and then you turn around to Richard and like, hey, Richard, they qualify for 375, and then the buyer comes in to Richard and is like, yeah, I qualify for 375. Let's go look at Summerlin, right? I mean, and it's like the expectation is it probably not gonna happen in Summerlin. We could find you Summerlin adjacent.
Yeah, just open
Right.
up the map. I mean, it's the easiest thing ever, right? Oh, I'm qualified for this. I want here. Okay, well, let's look at the map. Let's see what the market tells us. That's all my conversations are super easy. Okay,
Right.
let's see what the market's telling us. Because we don't get to decide the market. The market is its own thing.
Correct.
Let's go see if the market is telling us that 375 works in Summerlin. If it doesn't, that's okay. Let's see what other areas might work for you.
Right. And that's where new homes come in, right? Because I've seen you, I don't know, your social media, I've seen a lot, pushing a lot of new homes, because that's another option for those first-time buyers that want that new, that higher-end home, but they really can't afford the higher-end ticket. So you know what? Maybe a new home may be an option, not in the area that they want, but still, it's a new community. Isn't it true?
Yeah. So they can afford a new home, right? I mean, and it's funny, like, consumers and realtors, we all like to use all these fancy words, right? and it's all subjective, because higher end to me and you might not be the same thing.
Correct.
Me and Nicole might not be the same thing, right?
Well, we know Nicole is not going to be the same thing. I'm just kidding, Nicole.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, it's just okay. And I think about it like church, right? Like, how do I meet you where you're at? I just need to meet you where you're at, help you there, and let's get you to your goal, because ultimately your goal is to own a home.
Right.
Ultimately, the best thing you can do, like financially, because what's your biggest reoccurring expense as an adult? It's going to be where you live. How can we lock that in for 30 years?
Right.
Like at a lower price,
Correct.
maybe even lower.
Right.
And let's figure that out. If we can figure that out as early as possible for our consumers, then I think they win.
And I think, again, Richard and Nicole, the bottom line is that negotiation factor, right? I mean, we go to a lender and the lender says, you qualify for this much. This is the interest rate you're going to receive. This is what your monthly payment is going to be like. Now, kind of like hurry up and look, right? Because the interest rate is not set in stone.
No, it moves sometimes multiple times a day.
A day.
A day.
Okay. So again, you get somebody and say, hey, your interest rate is 6.25%, 7.25%. Go look for a home. And they go to Richard and are like, yeah, I kind of like this, but let me think about it. By that time, by tomorrow, the house could be gone. Isn't it true, Richard?
Yeah, it definitely could be gone. It's definitely important to, like what it is it that you are looking for.
Right.
Right. Like, what's our buy box? Everybody wants to be in Malibu with the $20 million house on the beach, or, right there next to the ocean, but that's just not going to be everybody's reality. So what is our reality? What are we looking for? What's the box that we need to get into? Does this home meet those requirements for you, right?
Correct.
Like, are these going to hit the check boxes for you? Or are we going to wait 3 to 5 years, right?
Right.
And risk that appreciation. Like, if you do the math, right, at the earlier example we did, the 450 times 1.04, you do it 5 times, right? You've gained 100K.
Easily.
Or you're going to enter, instead of entering at 450 the market, you're going to enter at 550. Does that make sense for anybody?
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna go in at a lower interest rate, but you're gonna pay 100K extra.
Exactly.
Right? And what's the interest paid at 550 at 1% lower?
Right.
Does it really make that much sense? I mean, really, I don't know.
You know what? Honestly, to me, it doesn't. Because I always tell people it's so much easier to refinance and lower your interest rate than come out $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to try to buy down your loan amount, right? And can we talk about that loan amount? Because a lot of people don't realize that the loan amount is really what's going to determine your payment at the end of the year, right? I mean, at the end of the 30 years, right?
Right. So the loan amount, it's simple math, right? Whatever you buy your house for, whether it's 450, 400,000, your loan amount is going to have an impact based on your down payment. Now, your monthly payment is derived of four things, right? Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So when we're talking about the increase of sales price, your sales price actually jumps up, or your mortgage payment actually jumps up much higher than if you were to just accept the interest rate it is now, like you said, in a couple of years, right? We're looking, what if it does go up 100,000? And I still think 4%. I know we're being conservative.
We are.
But
I think it's too low.
It is too low.
Yeah, I think
especially in Vegas. And especially if you're watching and you're in Vegas, we have so much things happening in the city that 4% is so low. We're turning into one of the national sports cities, capital. That's only going to drive up prices even more. We have techs, we have all this growth happening in Vegas. So even waiting a year or two, not only are you going to come out more on your monthly payment, but your down payment increases. And how easy, if you can think, just honestly have a conversation with yourself, how much money are you putting away every month right now? Now imagine having to figure out how to find an extra $20,000, $30,000.
Agreed.
So when we're talking about the mortgage payment, I think it's one, just get in where you feel comfortable. We gotta establish that baseline. That establishes your sales price. Then you let the market do the rest of the work for you and the heavy lifting.
And I think that's really important because I have an access, and I know Richard has access too, but we have access to a market trend report, right? Last time that we checked, the zip code on East Las Vegas, the year-over-year increment of equity in East Las Vegas was 12%. And that's East Las Vegas, where everybody I don't want to buy there. No. You could buy anywhere in the city and you will make money as long as everything maintained the same. Now, if we go into war, that's a different story. If, everything that, the new administration is putting in fruition, then that's going to change a little bit of things. But at the end of the day do you have a roof over your head?
Right.
Can you wait 10, 15, 20 years? Because eventually that money will come back. And I always tell people, when you make money in real estate, when you purchase, you just collect the funds when you sell. And usually is either 5, 10, 15, 20 years after you sell. It's going to depend. Are you going to be collecting $100,000 or are you going to be collecting $300,000? But if you purchase, you're always going to have a successful closing at the end. If you don't purchase, I'm sorry, but you're not going to have any money. You're going to be paying off somebody else's mortgage. Isn't that true?
True. So one thing that I heard, and we keep going back to 2008. So it seems to be a really hot topic and everyone is really concerned about it. So let's talk about the two things that happened in 2008, right? The reason why we had this dip or the market crash was because of the supply and demand, right? We had too many homes on the market and not enough buyers to purchase it. We're in the complete opposite. We have more buyers who are needing properties versus that are available.
Right.
So one, the decline in the value, I think if anything, we might level out. We might not see the growth of appreciation that we have seen. However, I don't think we're going to see this big, massive loss. But let's say even if we do, in 2008, people were walking away from their houses because they said, I am underwater. To me, it was the stupidest thing. And maybe there was one thing from I can't afford my payment because I was in a very bad loan and my mortgage skyrocketed and I can't pay $4,000 a month.
Correct.
Versus my value decreased. This is no longer worth it to me.
Yes.
At the end, that is where I saw the biggest regrets come back from buyers later. Because are you going to walk away from a payment you can afford to go rent?
Right.
And so I think the mindset of we're on a bubble, we're about to burst, is something that we just have to clarify and get that out of the way. There is no bubble.
Nope.
We're not going to see these huge decline in values. Our market is good. Our market is strong. We're right where we need to be. Interest rates of 2-3% that you're waiting on will probably, I don't think I'll ever see it in my lifetime again.
Nope.
And if we think about what the impact it had on our economy, it threw us in a tailspin over the last 3 years. So do we even want to see those rates come back?
Correct.
So for the something you talked about earlier, buyers were overpaying by 20, 30,000. That was during the 2% interest rate era.
Exactly.
But why? Why was it, right? Like, why would somebody give you an extra $20K if they can finance something at 2%?
Well, it was because you had people that were moving out of state, right? It was during COVID. I think the perfect storm of the purchasing ability to give the sellers the right to say, hey, I got 10 people that want to buy my home. I'm just going to sell it to the highest bidder. That's what created that $20,000, $30,000.
But not just that. But why were there so many buyers buying at 2%?
Because of the rate.
Because of the rate.
Money was
Because
cheap.
of the rate. So, and what does Nicole mean by money was cheap? It means that if appreciation, or let's say inflation is typically 4 to 5% year over year, which is closer to 5 to 7, if you can borrow for cheaper than inflation is, you're essentially borrowing that money for free. Like effective, you're probably netting every single year. So if you're telling me it's going to cost me an extra $20K to finance something for basically free, that's why you saw Open Door and Zillow and all these big companies acquiring properties, because they were getting free money. Right. And a lot of people, they just didn't realize it because they just weren't right. I think a lot of people are not aware of what does that even mean, 2% or 3%. What does that mean? It effectively is almost free money at that point, right? So that's why somebody's willing to give that 20 and 30K. But we can't go back to unless we have a national disaster. We got to have a national disaster, for something like that to happen, because it's economically irresponsible for us to have 2 or 3% raise, because then inflation, just like Zimbabwe, right? People were walking around with barrels of freaking money, of cash, but it was worth nothing because they printed too much. And that's what we were doing. That's why people were borrowing so much during that time. I wish I would have bought more during that time, to be honest.
Yeah, right. And and that's the biggest thing, right? The people that know about money, they're like, man, I should have invested more. The people don't know about money is like, I just want that 2% back. And they're like, you have no idea what kind of pressure it puts into the national economy having those type of rates. And then third of all, let's be honest, there was a lot of people that the houses were $150,000 during COVID. The interest rate was 2.5%, and they said, I'm still gonna wait. I think the worst thing you could do.
We're gonna have a crash,
right? I think the worst thing you could do is have that mindset of I'm gonna wait, because you're gonna keep on waiting and it's never gonna happen. I know for a fact. Again, I'm not I don't have a crystal ball, but I know based on all the data that I collect, I know for a fact that our prices are not gonna drop anytime within the next 10 years. Why? Nicole said it. We're becoming a global sports, destination. Hollywood is coming. We have 3 studios in Hollywood coming. They're not going to spend $200 billion to build studios here, not thinking, oh, Vegas is going to take a crap pretty soon.
Yeah, but why is Hollywood coming?
Because it's cheaper for them.
And we have no state tax.
Right.
What else is going to happen in 5 to 10 years? Well, I'm going to give them 10 years because they said 5 years. What happens to Summerlin?
Yeah, it's going to be outpriced.
It's going to be complete. You can't build anymore.
Nope.
Inspirata, 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Done. Cadence, done.
Yep.
Northwest, done.
North Las Vegas, done.
Right. Okay, so where are we going to build now, right? So once we we're in a valley. We're surrounded by mountains. What happens when all that land is filled with houses?
We either go up or we go to Pahrump.
You go up or to Pahrump.
Or Sandy Valley.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just think about San Francisco right now.
You can't build anymore.
You can't build,
You have
and they're
to tear down
building
to build.
up.
Yep.
So that's why right now, go get into a new home. Go get into Summerlin.
Yes. And the biggest thing right now, and we're seeing it, because I still have real estate agent friends that I keep in contact in California, they're tearing down old apartments that were like 2 stories, and now they're putting a 15-story building in the same plot of land, because the rent is incredible. I mean, again, you could not build land when you run out of it. I mean, I've seen people, and I have a lot of footage of, construction companies coming in and ripping out mountains. But they're not going to rip out every single mountain. They're going to only make enough space to fit one community, and then after that, you're behind the mountain.
Well, just think about that, though. Even if they do come in and remove a mountain, what does that do? What leverage does that give to the builder?
They're not removing the mountain.
They're not. But think about it. In Henderson, they did. They built into the mountain.
Yes, they have.
But what leverage did that give the builder?
Exactly.
Oh, it's
That added a $200,000-300,000 up a price on your property.
yes, because now the lot values
Just went up.
I had somebody here that all they do is do Lake Las Vegas, and I did not know this, but you could still buy lots to build in Lake Las Vegas. And she was saying that, the sales price are $200,000-300,000 for just a lot, for half an acre. I'm like, oh, that means you got to. I mean,
you got to pull in the utilities.
Yes.
Oh my God, and that's just like scratching the surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some amazing deals right now.
Right.
Like I really like this community. There's no free game, but like Toll Brothers, Bella Strada. It's right behind all of the Blue Errands, and it's right next to the lake, bro. And it's like $1 million or $2 million less than Blue Errands, but you're right there.
Yeah.
Like I think that's probably one of the best deals.
Yeah. And but so again, you know,
research, but that's what I think.
But again, you know what? You have to want to remove that I am waiting out of your mind. You have to start making the phone call and say, can I qualify? Should I qualify? What do I need to do? You might not qualify today, but maybe Nicole is going to tell you, hey, here's the roadmap you need to be ready to buy in 6 months. Then at that point, we could contact Richard, and Richard could say, you know what? My inventory just went up a little bit. Let's go look at homes. And also be very, very specific on what you're looking for. Set your expectations to what the reality is, because you're not going to find your dream home the very first time. I'm sorry, but it's the best time to just to find something that fits your needs, and then let the real estate work for you, like Nicole said. Isn't that Richard?
Exactly. And you know what? I think this is a great segue to, this will be very educational. So Nicole, what are the components of somebody qualifying? There's not that many sliders they need to use, right? Hey, you need to get this, and that, right? So what are the factors of somebody qualifying? Income, credit, like what are the things that can be moved? What are the levers we can pull on?
So whenever we're doing a discovery call, right, there's the three components that we go over: credit, income, and assets.
Perfect.
So credit, I love this saying. I'm going to steal it from one of my coworkers. At 580, I can get you into a house. At 600, I can get you some down payment assistance. And at actually, it's I think 500, we can get you into a house. Sorry, 500 we can get you into a house. 600 we can get you down payment assistance. And anything above that, you kind of open up the guidelines, right? So one, knowing what your credit is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to have a sense of where you're at, so we can create some programs available. And then income. Realistically, where's your income coming from? Are you W-2, self-employed? Each of those might have a little bit of tangents, but you want a 2-year history. And then assets, we talk about down payment. You don't need a lot of down payment. You don't need a lot of money to get into a home. And there's even some great first-time home buyers programs that we can help you with down payment assistance, and some that don't even require you to be a first-time home buyer. So it's just starting the conversation. First-time home buyers, you're going to need at least 3% down, but we can use other programs too that can get that down to 0. So it's about having the conversation, and I think a lot of people will be surprised on how soon you can buy a house, because what your parents and your aunts and your grandparents told you to do, that is old news.
Yeah.
We have so many new programs that are innovative. We have so many different lenders and banks that work with specific clients. So just start the conversation. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, you just got to start the conversation. It's like, okay, if they meet with you, okay, you either got to get your income up, you got to pay off some debt, right? Or we got to work on credit.
Right.
That's the worst case scenario. It's
Exactly.
a super easy conversation, right? I know it sounds scary because you're going to feel vulnerable, but if you guys just start the conversation with the lender of your choice, maybe it's Nicole, right? She sounds supernatural from what I heard.
From what I heard too.
From what I heard, right?
Yeah.
I hope for you guys, that's all she's gonna tell you. Hey, you know what? Income's good, but can we get it up a little bit? You know what? You have a little bit too much debts. Can we pay some of this down? Here's a 6-month, 12-month, whatever it is. And then credit. Hey, maybe you're using a little bit too much, or maybe you don't even have credit lines at all. So here's what you got to do, right? You got to start building it up. That's the worst case scenario that's gonna happen. You're not gonna nobody's gonna put you on freaking PBS or NBC and hey, this guy has terrible credit.
No.
So there's confidentiality, and if you guys just start the process, you're gonna get there. All you have to do is start. That's why I encourage you. No matter where you're at today, I guarantee within 2 years, anybody I've ever spoke to, within 2 years you'll be there, and it might be within 2 months.
Right.
A lot of people I talk to, oh wait, I can buy now? Yeah. Dude, you make a great income. Your car payment's super low, and your credit's right there. Like you're like 620, right? 600, and like you said, 500. Like you can buy today.
Right.
As long as once you get that set 30-year payment, now you can start making plays. Like it gives you so much power over. I don't have to worry about my rent increasing every single year. Because I remember in 2010, I rented an apartment for $500.
Wow.
Right, at $500.
Yeah.
If I went back now, I'm pretty sure it's quadrupled.
Oh, easily.
Single 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms now are like $1,700 to $2,000.
Yeah, well,
it's crazy.
We know for a fact that here in the Southwest, where we're at, is one of the fastest growing area right now in Las Vegas, right? I mean, we have North Las Vegas or going towards, Cal Canyon and everything that, all of those homes are being built. But literally here, we're talking about shopping, food, and housing. And the rental here is between $1,800 and $2,200 a month. And that's insane. You could buy a house for probably the same amount of money here in the Southwest if you look the right moment, if you know what you're looking for, and if you go ahead and start the process. So I guess our biggest thing right now will be just get started. Just make phone calls, ask questions. Can I qualify? How do I qualify? Because the house is going to be there eventually, sooner or later. And you want to be prepared if you find that one house that fits all your needs, and then you're like, oh, Richard, this is the perfect house. Well, are you qualified? No, I'm not. It's not going to be available, right? I mean, and that's something that
it's not going to be available most likely unless it got super overpriced.
Right.
I think the best thing someone can do, call to action, is just start a home buyer roadmap. Like, that's my favorite conversation. It's not a pre-qual conversation, not pre-approval. Like, let's just have a home buyer roadmap conversation, and let's start from there. Let's figure out how far are you away, because it could be, like I said, 2 months to 2 years.
Right.
Like, I think you're going to be there pretty quickly. You're going to be faster than you believe. So if you can do anything in the next 24 hours, I would tell you guys this. Start a home buyer roadmap conversation. And if you already own a home, right, maybe you've owned it for 3 to 5 years. Okay, well, you've probably gained plenty of equity. Now what's my next step to get that next home? Well, I mean, consult with a realtor like myself, or consult with Nicole to find out, like, what does it need to look like on paper to get to that next level, because now you've gained equity, and chances are your income has improved. Chances are your debts have gone down as well, because you have that set monthly payment. So just start that conversation, so that way you guys can accomplish your goals, because at the end of the day, like, we only have one life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't get to redo life, but you do get to choose what action you're going to take today. So I'm going to ask you, are you going to decide to take that action today, or are you going to wait another 10 years?
Right. And I truly agree with that statement. Life is just like a soccer game or a football game, right? Are you at halftime right now? Are you going to figure out, what have I done successfully to get here? Am I winning in life? Or can I go ahead and adjust and start adjusting to end the game in a winning scenario, right?
Exactly. So, you know what? Real quick. I think the saddest conversations I've had, and I had 3 of them last year. And because I used to do more like online leads, now like internet leads, right? It's so sad, because I would speak to like widows. Widows who never, like, their husband or them, they just never owned a home. They're on set income, $1,500 to $1,700 a month. It's like, dude, like how can I get into a home?
Right.
Like, they're living out of their truck. And it's like, it's very hard. It's like, we got to go to the nonprofit route to help them.
Right.
But that's why, like, I encourage, like, I don't want to see people that are listening to this right now. I don't want to see my friends and family. Like, I have love for everybody, right? And I treat all my clients like I love you guys.
Right.
Like, I want you guys to be successful financially, business, spiritual, like everything, personal, right? And the only way I can do that is by giving you this advice, from me telling you the truth. If I tell, hey, you gotta wait because there's a crash coming, or you gotta wait because of X, Y, and Z. If I tell you the truth and I love on you, and I'm hard, I don't say hard on you, but like I'm firm with you, and I say, hey, this is where you could be, right? Talking roadmap. I don't want to see you be 60 years old or 70, be a widow, and not have anything to rely on, right? Because now if you actually even if you own one home, you can do a reverse mortgage. Now you're good.
At least. And then the other thing is this. You got to remember, you're educating your kids, your future generation, to be homeowners, not to be renters. And there's nothing wrong with being a renter. But at one point, you have to turn on the switch and say, hey, is this really beneficial for me and my family? Because we're all going to have to have a roof over our head. We're all going to have to go ahead and figure out what is going to be our legacy for our future generations. And teaching them how to be homeowners, I think, is one of the greatest things out there. Well, believe it or not, the hour is gone.
Yeah, that was fast.
Yes, because we love to talk. So let's go ahead and start again. If you want to go ahead and give me your name, your last name, company you work with, phone number, twice, kind of slow, so people could write it down. And then one last quick tip, I would really appreciate it, Nicole.
Okay, so Nicole Renteria with Loan Depot, sales manager. 760. Oh, excuse me.
We have the sales manager, people.
I thought, no,
No, you're good.
I really wanted to flex. No. So 760-458-4338. Once again, 760-458-4338. And I think my one tip for you is not so much getting too caught up in the process, but find out what being a homeowner and owning a home for you and your family could mean. What could that set you up for? What changes in a positive way could that help for your family, for your kids, for your future life, your future self? So if that is something that you think about, then start the conversation.
Very cool. Richard, please.
Yeah. So Richard Pobre, I'm with eXp Realty. I'm a team leader. My number is 702-619-8236. However, most people get a hold of me through Instagram, so it's at Richard Realtor. Also on TikTok, same thing on YouTube. So if you want to follow me in those platforms, we post 1 to 2 videos every single day without fail. And if you want more tips, definitely follow me on those pages. My one tip, though, my one takeaway, if I was going to give you guys anything, it would just to be have a home buyer roadmap consultation. I think that it's important to just start. If you start, you can finish. But if you never start, you just stay on that edge, like you're never gonna be able to finish, right? And I don't want you guys to be at that what if in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. I want you guys to have multiple keys, multiple doors, and leave a legacy for your family. So
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm JC Castillo. With me, you guys could go ahead and contact me. And I'm just the marketing rep. I'm not a manager or nothing like that, so I can't flex yet. But everybody knows who I am. Again, you could reach me out of the air at 702-416-4302, 702-416-4302. And please remember, it really defines you as a person if you ask the question that nobody wants to ask. So pick up the phone, call Nicole, call Richard, and say, hey, I'm thinking of buying. Can I buy? And that's just going to open up a whole new future for you. Don't let it go to waste. Remember, please behave yourselves because it's free. It's free to behave yourselves. And we'll be here tomorrow with 2 different guests. Really appreciate you guys. And we'll be on the air tomorrow. See you later.